Welcome back to the Knuckle podcast, episode 51. It's been quite a while. I really kept up on that doing one every 2 weeks consistency, right? Only did that for about 2 months. So what? Well, I missed a week. It would have been towards the end of April. Due to finals, I just was preoccupied with them, studying. Well, actually, one specifically. I was just taking ordinary differential equations, so I was preparing for that, and then I finished, and I got done, and just kind of didn't occur to me that I forgot to do it. Excuse me, my nose is running today a little bit. What was I talking? Oh, yeah. So then I kind of forgot, and then I had a bunch of free time, so I started working on my house. Almost done with that. Still not moved in, unfortunately, but getting all the closer and actually closer. Could have almost actually moved in, even though I'm not finished with the floor downstairs. But I forgot I do not have blinds. Oh, that sounds better, doesn't it? Forgot I do not have blinds, and I ordered some, and they came in, I believe. Because, the store called me and said they came in and said, oh, the installer will... Excuse me. We'll call you to set up a time. It's been over a week, so I called them back, and they said they'd get in touch with them, and I still haven't heard from them, so I don't know what's going on there. But I don't know who is listening to this, but if anyone's listening who hasn't lived in Alaska in the summertime, there's a lot of sun. And I guess I could do like super ghetto, like put sheets over the window or something, but figure fuck it, I'll just wait till they install them and then move in. So I've been working on my house, basically slacking off on recording. Also been terrible at writing down ideas of things I want to talk about. I will go, ooh, I should talk about that, and then I do not write it down. So I don't really have a lot to talk about. I have seen a lot of movies lately, so I thought I would talk about them. A couple of documentaries and a lot of mainstream movies that probably a lot of people have seen. And I wanted to actually talk about one TV show real quick, and that is Top Gear. That's one bad thing too about taking time off. When you're more consistent in doing it, you're better at removing kind of this erroneous just sound that you say for no reason, like that type of stuff. But anyways, it's Top Gear. I watched the first 2 episodes, and when I say Top Gear, I mean the BBC show called Top Gear, not whatever the new show with Jeremy Clarkson, Richard Hammond and James May will be called. I don't know what that's called. I will watch that as well. I watched the first 2 episodes, and so far they're doing a weird thing where they're bringing in almost like one host a show. I don't know how large of a group they're gonna have. They got some British guy. I don't know who he is. Very, I don't know what's the word. Very energetic, I guess you could say. They also have Matt LeBlanc, who surprisingly I do not think is that bad. I actually kind of like his take on cars and some stuff. I mean, not I like the way he reviews them. There you go. Not necessarily I agree with his reviews, but I like the way he does it. Excuse me, I think I'm about to sneeze. All right. Had to pause it real quick. Oh, jeez. Running now. But, so I like his take on cars. And they also, in the second in the second episode, brought in a guy named Eddie George. He's a Irish guy who was a race car driver. I can't remember what kind of cars he raced this time, but he's pretty well known in Europe. I don't know. I don't find him particularly contributing that much, other than he's just kind of a car guy. I don't know if he's really that good of a presenter. And then the main guy they have, who's like their new Jeremy Clarkson, the new head guy, he obviously likes cars because he bought a McLaren, and it'd be, I don't know, the equivalent of over 300,000 American. So you don't do that just to try and convince people you like cars. He obviously does. I just don't. There's part of me that doesn't buy what he's doing for the show. There's part of me that definitely part of me that knows he likes cars, and then another part of me that feels he's just doing it for the paycheck. But I have one caveat. I will at least watch the third episode. That was weird sounding. Heard a crackle there. Sorry about that. The third episode next week, because there's a guy who I've always watched his videos on YouTube named Chris Harris. I don't know. They had a few episodes of a show called Drive, which is, I think he also has a YouTube channel called that. But he also has one, if you're looking for him, called Chris Harris on Cars, I believe is what it's called. He's a very good motor journalist. I've been watching his stuff for years. So he is supposed to be on, that's his debut next week, the third new episode. So I'm hoping maybe with him on there I might like it a bit more. So we'll see. But as of right now, I do not foresee myself still watching the new Top Gear. Sorry about that. I had to blow my nose. It's kind of... See, this is what I'm talking about. This is why I got to practice. It was just kind of leaking after I sneezed. Anyways, so Top Gear, yes, no, I'm not sure. We'll see. Like I said, I've seen a lot of movies lately, so I guess I'll talk about that just to get back in practice, I guess you could say. So, one I watched was a super interesting documentary. When you actually watch it, the name, I think they could have come with a better name for it. It's called Fear of 13, and it's about this guy who... he was basically a drug addict, and some woman died near an area he lived, I guess. Well, this is how they set it up, because they go back in time. How should I describe this? So he was a drug addict. He said he had information about a crime where a woman died, and he basically fingered one of his drug using buddies who he thought was dead, who turned out to be alive. And then they investigated and found out that dude was alive, and he had an alibi. So then they were like, well, what the fuck? And then they started coming down on him, and it seems kind of like through coercion, he ends up going to jail for killing this woman. And then that's how they kind of set it up. And they go back in time and talk about when he was younger. He used to steal cars. So he doesn't pretend like he was a great guy. He was molested. I guess raped would be a better word when he was younger, which probably led to some of the things that happened when he was an older teenager. Because it doesn't sound like when he talks about it, he ever really told his parents, so they didn't know. But at one point, they're transferring him to another prison, and there's kind of a mix-up, and he gets scared, and he basically runs off, so he escapes for, I don't know, a few months till they catch him again. He also meets a woman and gets married, and then they finally DNA evidence kind of comes through, and they go to test it, and something gets screwed up, and they basically say it's all lost, so he thinks he's stuck in prison again. So then his wife leaves him, and then somehow they find out, oh no, there was samples, because the place that originally did the test didn't give them all of it, so there's still a little bit left. So he was able to test it again, and it's a pretty incredible story, because hearing this dude talk, he seems like a normal, nice, intelligent human being, and it's just, you would not guess that he's gone through all this, and it's just a pretty remarkable story of transformation. So I'd recommend watching. It's called Fear of 13. Pretty good. So the next one I watched, probably something a lot more people would be familiar with, is it's called The Resurrection of Jake the Snake Roberts. It's actually just called Resurrection of Jake the Snake, but that was his wrestling name. But obviously wrestlers have fake names, but his real last name is not even Roberts, so I don't know why they called him Jake the Snake Roberts. They could have just done Jake the Snake. But anyways, so Jake the Snake was a huge wrestler in the 80s. Like a lot of wrestlers, became addicted to alcohol and drugs and anything to kind of numb the pain, because they're just beating themselves up. Got to a point where he couldn't really do what he needed to do in the then WWF, now WWE, and kind of slowly just kept sliding as far as the level of professionalism in the organizations he was in. And I think the story picks up about 2013, a few months after their video surfaced, him just going into the ring, what appears to be very hammered and just incoherent. And he later says in part of the film he only had a little bit to drink, and it doesn't appear that way, but at that point I think he was still kind of in the middle of his addiction, even though he'd been about 60 days sober. He relapses a couple times after that, so I think he was still kind of, while sober, technically still kind of the addict mind, and didn't want to admit what had happened. But he basically goes to live with Diamond Dallas Page, another wrestler, and gets him on DDP yoga and eating better and blah, 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 and how he kind of turned his life around. It's a pretty good story. It's also pretty good because Razor Ramon is in it, Scott Hall, and he's a giant of a man. I want to say he's 6'8" or something. He's fucking ginormous. And when he comes in about a third of the way through the movie, he's practically wheelchair ridden. He's kind of limping, can't really move. He ends up getting, I think, hip replacement surgery or something. Either way, and then so DDP is all healthy, and then these two dudes are basically, if you want to compare them to cars, they're old junkers, and by the end they're restored, maybe as good as they could be, and Razor Ramon. Scott Hall's helping to teach his son how to wrestle, and he can actually move well enough to do that now. And Jake the Snake gets into the WWE Hall of Fame. Spoiler alert. I guess you're supposed to say that first, but fuck it, who cares? Not like you couldn't Google it and find it out. This all, 2015 stuff. Or if you even can. But either way, I think even if you're not a wrestling fan, the dude was pretty low. Like he looked haggard. He looked beat. He looked like there was not much left. And to see him, a year and a half later when he gets into the Hall of Fame at the end of the movie, he's, looks more, I think he's in his 60s. He looks like, a healthier dude in his 60s. It's pretty crazy. So if you're at all interested, if you're interested in wrestling at all, if you watched it as a kid growing up like I did, I would for sure check it out. It's also pretty just good in general. I know if you're interested in, I don't know, kind of sports, I guess. I know a lot of people would say it's not a sport, but a older athlete kind of, because the story, I don't think, it happens to a lot of wrestlers, but I think it happens to a lot of athletes, period. They just get beat up and stop taking care of themselves and squander their money. I guess the difference though with the wrestlers is they still try and do it even though they may not have the physical capabilities. You don't have that in other sports. They kind of have to quit. But either way, it's a pretty good documentary. It's called The Resurrection of Jake the Snake. What else? So I've also seen lately, what did I see? Saw the Captain America, the X-Men movie, and the Warcraft movie. What can I say? Well, I guess I'll go. So Captain America was good. I wouldn't say it was spectacular, but it was pretty good. They set up some stuff for other movies, which is typical to what they're doing right now. Seems like there's going to be another new Spider-Man, which I thought was kind of odd, but whatever. But it was entertaining. It wasn't bad. I'd say it was pretty good. X-Men, I also liked. What can you say about that? So it's about Apocalypse, and they kind of... I actually thought the movie was well done. There's one weird part to me, though, was... I don't know, it's just me, how my mind works. It kept bugging me was... what's her name? Sophie Turner. She's in Game of Thrones. I forget what her character name is, but she's like the oldest daughter. So she's obviously like British or some, I don't know what she's obviously European. She has some type of accent. I'm pretty sure it's British. But then in this, she talks without it, and it just kept bugging me. And it's just me, I think. I'm like, stop talking like that. Just talk with your accent. But she's playing an American, so that's why she does it. But either way, the movie is pretty good overall. The only part that kind of bugged me is I never really read the comics. I read some stuff online. I definitely watched the cartoon when I was a kid, and Apocalypse was supposed to be this all-powerful being. And he definitely demonstrates his power against a lot of humans. But then, well, here's a spoiler alert. Pretty much, I don't think I'm trying to remember if any mutants die. But it just seems like he beats them up and doesn't kill them. Whereas like humans, it's like you just snap his fingers and they die. So it's kind of like, in a weird way, he does feel very powerful. In another way, he doesn't. But I don't know if they're doing that to set up something else with him. Because I remember... in the cartoons, they supposedly defeated him a lot of times, and then he would essentially get resurrected. And something happens in the movie with Psylocke, Olivia Munn's character, that kind of leads you to believe that's the case. They're setting some other stuff up. They definitely, if you watch the end credits, they set up something there. I had to Google it to figure out what they were doing because it was something only recently in the comic books, I guess, as of a few years ago. But it seems like they're going to try and make a movie out of that. So check that out as well. The last one I saw recently was the Warcraft movie. And what I will say about that is, I don't know, it's getting pretty good reviews as far as people see it. Critics are giving it terrible reviews, and I can see why. Because, I mean, I watched it. I'll give it a solid B, give it a 85. But I also felt like the whole time I was just waiting for something more to happen. It very much seemed like they were setting up to make more of these, but was also very underwhelming because of that. Visually, there's some very cool elements. They did a very good job with the CGI of certain elements, I think. But it just didn't grab me. I mean, some stuff was interesting to me because I remember from playing, the different Warcrafts throughout the years. So for me, that was pretty cool, some of that. I believe there's also some World of Warcraft stuff related to the story, I guess, that's in there. Well, not I guess. I know there is because I Googled it. I didn't really play too much of that, so it's hard for me to tell. Like, I was still able to enjoy it, but I don't know if you had no knowledge going in really of the game, if you would enjoy it. I suspect you could if you came in there with an open mind, I guess you could say. But if you were aware, I think if you don't have any desire to play those games, but you're aware of what they are, and then you saw this, I do not think you would like the movie. But we'll see. It was a first attempt. Like I said, visually, there was some very cool, very stunning shots, I guess you could say. If you're a fan of the games in any way, even if you haven't played them, even if you only played like Warcraft 1 or 2 way back in the day, I think you would enjoy it. That's about it. I'll try and come up with some ideas, or I guess rather remember to write them down in the future. Keep making episodes. This has been episode 51. I don't think I gave the website earlier. It's mooseknucklepodcast.wordpress.com. We're on iTunes, Stitcher. Like us on there. See, goddamn, I keep saying That's why you gotta practice. So you eliminate things like that. But Jesus, it just did it right there. Not but ha, hoo ha, all day long. So send it to a friend if you like this. Send me any suggestions. Our email is on the WordPress site and has links to other things on there related to us. I'll be honest, I pretty much only use the Twitter. It tweets out new episodes automatically. I really haven't thought much about using that. I guess maybe I could. Don't have an Instagram or Snapchat or any of that crap. I'm sure that's kind of important for social media type stuff, so maybe I should figure that out. But I have no plans of right now. But that was episode 51. Have a nice, morning, night, evening, afternoon, wherever you're at, wherever you're listening to this. Later.